Hello everybody, this is Jeff Janess. Welcome to lab exercise number 11 on raster analysis. And here we're going to look at how to construct a hillshade using multiple sun positions. And this is another one of those Swiss method modifications to hillshades. It makes them more visually interesting, and this one can also help bring out topographic details that get lost or washed out in a simple hillshade. Now, the basic strategy is to simply generate multiple hillshades using the normal hillshade tool and then add them together. Now, this is the kind of thing you might want to do more than once, so we're going to connect all the tools up in a model and model builder so it'll be easier to rerun all the steps in the future. Now we're going to get into how to make this hillshade in just a sec, but I have a model you can download if you like, and it's available at this link here down in the lab exercise document. The model itself is named Dual Hillshade. So if you download it, you're going to download this toolbox named Raster Analysis Tools. Within it, there is this thing called Dual Hillshade. Nice thing about this one is I've got some model parameters set up so you can just double click on it to make it run. And here you can set the positions of your two sun locations and just hit go. So that makes it real easy to do this. But nice thing also is that you can right click on it, go to edit it, and here you can see how the model is set up, and you can play with it or modify it if you want. So please feel free to download this if you want. Now, in this lab exercise, I'm going to be using ArcGIS Pro version 3.3.2, so the tools might look a little different if you're using a different version. Okay, so let's get started. Now, the first thing we have to do is make a map and add our data to it. We're going to be using this data set called DEM 10 meters that we've been using in other labs in this module. That data set is located in the class GIS data folder in the raster functions. Here it is. So I'm just going to right click on it and say add to new map, and that'll save us a step. It'll create a map and throw it in automatically. And just to keep things clear for myself, I'm going to change the name of this map to Dual Hillshade. Okay, next step is to make a model. And if you're going to make a model, first you have to have a place to put it, and models go in toolboxes, so you need a toolbox. Now, if you want, you can create your own toolbox. There's good reasons to do that sometimes. If you want to know how, it's right here in the lab exercise. I've got a couple of pictures to show you how. Now, for this lab exercise and this demonstration, I'm just going to use the default toolbox that comes with this ArcGIS Pro project, and you will also have a default toolbox. So my project is named SA Topography Labs, and here's the default toolbox. So I'm just going to put it in here. So we make a model by just going into the toolbox, right-clicking in here, going to New Model. Easy enough. We have a model to work with now. Now, I've got the toolbar turned on. If you just see that says Show Toolbar, then I recommend you click it so you have the tools available here. That's kind of your preference, so you can always find the tools up here in the ArcGIS Pro ribbon. Just sometimes they're harder to find. Now, let's set some properties for this model. That's this little button here, Properties. I'm going to set a name and a label. Interesting thing about these names and labels, the name is actually nothing that you personally use. This is what ArcGIS Pro uses internally to recognize this model. And it has restrictions on what you can call it. We're just going to call it multi-hillshade. Now, it can't have any spaces or dots or any non-alphanumeric characters. So the label is what we use to recognize it. I'm going to give it a more descriptive label. And the label is what you'll see up here in the list in Catalog. Okay, hit OK. Let's save our edits. That's this button here. Or if you have the toolbar open, it's this one right here. Okay, I saved it, and you see it changed names here. So, okay, our model is ready to go. Now we just got to add some processes to it. And we're going to add 2 hillshade processes to it. So click Tools. That opens the geoprocessing pane. Just type in hillshade. We're going to use the Spatial Analyst version. And this, of course, assumes that you have Spatial Analyst licensed and turned on. Just drag one in here, then drag another one. So now we have 2 to work with. Okay, our 2 hillshades are going to be set up like this. One is going to be the sun is at 280 degrees, up 35 degrees. Second one is going to be sun is at 350 degrees, compass direction, and up 45 degrees. All right, so let's start with this one here. Input raster is the DEM. It recognizes it in the drop-down list because it's in our active map here. All right, the output raster, we're just going to leave it the name that it's suggesting. The azimuth is 280. The altitude angle up is 35 degrees. We'll leave model shadows off, and Z-factor is fine. Now, I'm using a Z-factor of 1 because I happen to know that the elevation units in my DEM are in meters, and the DEM is projected into a coordinate system that is based on meters. So that's really important to know. If you'd like to know more about issues and problems we have with coordinate systems and rasters, and especially in topographic analysis, take a look at the 4th lecture video in this module. I give some examples and explanations of this. All right. Anyway, we got this one set up. Let's do the second hillshade. Input raster again is the DEM. We're going to change the name of this to hillshade 2. The angle compass direction is 350 degrees, and the angle up is 45 degrees. Model shadows and Z-factors are fine. Hit OK. All right. We got our 2 hillshades ready to go. Next step is to add them together. The tool for that is called plus. Here we go. Spatial Analyst version. Drag it in. We're just going to set the 2 hillshades as the inputs. The first one will be input raster 1. Second one will be input raster 2. Going to call this output multi-directional hillshade. Okay, now we have a working model that will generate a hillshade based on 2 sun positions. And we could just leave it at this if you like, so please feel free to stop now if you want. I'm just going to do one more step because if you remember, the hillshade tool always produces values that range between 0 and 255. Well, since we're doing 2 hillshades and adding them, potentially we could get a new hillshade that ranges from 0 to 510. I don't know if that's a problem for you, but if you just want to keep your hillshade into the traditional range, then we need to divide this output by 2. So we can do that with the divide tool. Here we go. Just drag it in. The multi-directional that we just created is going to be input raster 1. We double-click on it to open up the tool. We set the thing we're dividing by, the denominator, to be 2. And we're going to call the output here final hillshade. Okay, so this will produce a new raster that is in the expected range of 0 to 255. Okay, now let's just make sure that the final output is set to be added to our map. You click on the last product that is being produced here, right-click, go to Add to Display, and check that. It'll turn it on. So now it should add it to the map. In my experience, it doesn't always, but this is the best we can do. All right, so we've got it all set up. Let's just clean it up, hit the auto layout, just makes it look prettier. All right, let's save it. All right, it's now ready to run. So all we have to do is hit the validate tool just to make sure it doesn't have any obvious errors. Then hit run. Goes to work. All right, let's close that. It should have added it to the map. And sure enough, it did. Now we have a hillshade raster based on 2 sun locations. Now, one last step. In this process, we created 3 intermediate data sets before we got to the final hillshade. Now, usually we don't have any reason to save these 3, so we want to get rid of them. Now, the model gives you a cool and easy way to do that. All you have to do is hit this Delete Intermediate button, click it, and they have been deleted. So now all we're left with is this final hillshade. Now our geodatabase is less cluttered. We have our final hillshade raster. That's all there is to it. All right, well, thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you sitting through this one. In our next lab exercise, we're going to look at a more sophisticated way to incorporate multiple sun positions called MDOW, the multi-directional oblique weighted hillshade. It's kind of an interesting and unusual effect for a hillshade. So take a look if you think you might be interested. In the meantime, y'all take care. Bye-bye.